Hi there, and welcome to Chimp Chat, a podcast aimed at helping you get the very best from your Mailchimp account. Brought to you by those clever chimps at Chimp Answers, a Mailchimp Pro partner. Mailchimp email marketing is just what we do. Hello everybody, and welcome to Chimp Chats, where every week we'll be giving you the lowdown on how to get more from your email marketing and Mailchimp, along with updating you on anything going on in the email marketing world that you need to be paying attention to. My name's Robin Adams, and I'm the owner of Chimp Answers, which is a specialist Mailchimp marketing agency. And today I'm joined again by the delightful Vicky Glass, our Mailchimp maestro. How are things going, Vicky? Enjoying the weather?
Oh, it's hot. It's the only way I can put it right now. But yeah, things are going good. Just trying to handle the heat. I'm actually quite fine with it being hot, but is a bit on the too much side currently.
Yeah. It's a traditional. I was reading something on the Facebook recently, which was we're British, which means that we complain about the weather, and it's just what we do. So don't question it, don't argue with it. We don't have air conditioning in the UK, so when it gets hot, we're allowed to complain about how hot it gets, and when it gets cold, we're allowed to complain again. It's just what we do. So, so it's kind of, I read that, I thought, yep, that's me. And
very well put.
Yeah, and I struggle because my office at home is in the exactly the wrong place for the sunshine. So when it gets hot, my office about 3 o'clock in the afternoon turns into a sauna, and I have to disappear off somewhere. Not fun, not fun. But we're now at the end of the British summer, so we've had our 7 days of oh my god, it's hot, and we can now just relax because it's just going to go back to the normal summer of a few rain, a little bit of wind, 1 or 2 nice days, and I think someone said if you don't like the weather in the UK, don't worry, just wait a day because it'll be different. Brilliant. Right, okay, enough of this mindless banter. Let's get into it. Let's hear people. So let's focus on our question of the week. And this week we're focusing on something that I think both me and Vicky were just saying before we started recording. It's something we both really, really like. And that's Mailchimp Landing Pages. How can you use Mailchimp Landing Pages effectively to capture and convert prospects? Okay. Personally, I think Mailchimp Landing Pages are probably the most universally underutilized tool in Mailchimp today. Lots of people are starting to do automations and all those other bits and pieces, but it's shocking how few people actually use landing pages because I think they're really extremely useful. Vicky, are you a fan?
Oh, am I a fan? I love Mailchimp landing pages. It's amazing. Just the ability to create something right where your emails are without a lot of faff. Like even if you don't get on with your website, you can just create something quickly and easily in Mailchimp, and it's not ugly either. It's beautiful. I just love it. It's so easy. It's amazing.
Excellent. Right. So today.
So
sorry. There it is.
Sorry, I just remembered. I love landing pages so much that I was just thinking out loud in my head. But it's quite an interesting topic for me because I think it's really good for people that don't have websites. But anyways, I'm not going to go on too much about it because I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. So what are we going to learn today, Robin?
Right, okay. Well, today we're going to focus on how Mailchimp landing pages work, when you should be using them, what actually makes a really good Mailchimp landing page or just a general landing page. And of course, we're going to throw in some key tips and tricks on how you can make the most of them. So let's get into things specifically. What are Mailchimp landing pages and how do they work? Vicky, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so that's a big topic, but yes, Mailchimp landing pages, they're essentially one-page websites. So they are just a standalone page that you create, that you put your content in, and it links to one thing that you're trying to promote. So it could be that you're trying to do a lead magnet, for example. So it's just a one-page website that you can create in Mailchimp, and it lives in Mailchimp. So you don't have to have a website or you don't have to use your website even if you have one. So it lives in Mailchimp, and you have a link when you create it, so you can share with your audience whenever you want to. You can create as many as you want. There is absolutely no limit, which is amazing because most other tools in this area, you can only get 5 or so or in certain plans, but there are no limits at all with Mailchimp. You get templates to start with, so even if you're not creative, you have a starting point. You're not just given a blank slate. You have some pointers. You have a section for your header and all those sort of things. So you get a template. You can use it to collect people's information, so you can put your sign-up forms in there. You can even just use it as an extra page for your website. So if you wanted to quickly put a survey up, for example, and you didn't want to go and mess around on your website, you could just do a quick page in Mailchimp for that. You can do lots of other things. You can add tracking to it, so you can get stats of who's come to your page, what they've done, what they've clicked on. Yes, so much you can do with Mailchimp landing pages. So it's essentially a web page, and it's similar to having a website, but just a web page in Mailchimp. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I probably have missed a lot of things, Robin. So you can tell me what I've missed now that I've listed all of those things.
That was pretty comprehensive. You covered pretty much everything. Just a couple of things as well. First of all, if you have got a form on your website, you can add tags automatically in the background, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. That's really, I remember when Mailchimp launched landing pages a couple of years ago, this wasn't very functional. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like, there's lots of potential here, but you can't tag and other bits and pieces. And then in the background, they actually updated it so you could add tags in the background. And I was like, this is brilliant. Finally, they've kind of like got it. So it's really, really, and we'll talk about why that's important in a little bit. Also, anyone can do this. So even if you're on a free Mailchimp account, you can create landing pages. Again, I think people turn around to go, free means limited. Well, actually, free from a Mailchimp point of view doesn't really mean that limited. There's lots of stuff that you can do. So make sure that even if you're on your free account, you can do it. And I think the biggest attraction for me is that they're really easy to use. And once you get a head around them, it's kind of like, it's something that you can do. There's a lot of tools out there. So there's some professional landing pages tools like ClickFunnels, Lead Pages, Unbounce. There's lots of ones out there. And the reason all of these tools have kind of like become, how to say, very standard as part of a marketer's toolkit is the fact the marketer doesn't need a web designer. And that's probably the biggest attraction. I still, remember times when if I needed to create a new page on a website, I had to go to the web designer, and the web designer had to explain how he'd do it in a certain way. And then I go, no, you don't want to do it that way. You can do it this way. And he goes, well, I've never done it that way before. And you just go through this long dialogue, and it'd be like 2 weeks before you even got to the point that you actually wanted it. By which point the campaign that you're running for the landing page to work with, it was already over, and it's kind of like, well, great, that doesn't really work. So from that point of view, they're the type of thing that make it very easy for you to be able to create these mini web pages without the need of anyone else to get involved. Now, obviously, if you're creating them, you need to understand one or two things about that, and we'll cover those, but that's the biggest plus point. They're easy and simple to do, that pretty much anyone who's got a Mailchimp account and who's already used to using the Mailchimp flow of how to design stuff, you can do the same in landing pages. The bottom line is that landing pages are pretty easy to use and are great when it comes to implementing some, I suppose, tactical marketing. So with that in mind, the next question that's always asked is, well, when should you use landing pages? And I'll take this one to start off. So to start off with, just use them as much as you can. They are something that, that once you realize how useful they are, you can use them all over. So for example, and this is probably the number one benefit and the reason you should be using landing pages, especially Mailchimp landing pages, is when you're doing some form of tactical campaign. So you're doing, say, a competition, or you're doing a giveaway on Facebook, or you're doing some kind of like sign up, so giving people, talking about a lead magnet or something that you want to give away, and you're doing that link on Twitter or anything like that. When you're generating traffic off-site, you want to drive that to somewhere on your website. Now, traditionally, most people in the past have driven it to your homepage. But the problem with homepages is they're not designed for these specific campaigns. Homepages are like, I was liking a homepage like a hotel concierge, where you open it up and you go, I'd like to know about products. And the concierge goes, well, you go and look to that page. And then you turn around and say, well, I'd like to understand a little bit about the blog. And you go over here. That's what homepages are for. But if someone's clicked on an advert or a social media post in Facebook, which is talking about a specific thing, you don't want to send them to a homepage. You want to send them to the page that's specific. And that's where you can create the the landing page to be specific to that campaign. So if you're doing any proactive marketing, whether it's paid, social media, or anything, when you're generating traffic into your website or your location, basically you should be driving that to a landing page, and Mailchimp makes it very easy. Also, like I said, you can use them to test things. So you don't need to get your web designer involved. Lots of businesses come up with an idea. You know, I'm like this all the time. Oh, great idea. Let's do that. And then suddenly you're limited because you've got to jump through hoops to actually get it done. With landing pages, you can just do them straight away. And they're also really flexible and solve quick problems. So recently we had a client who just needed a terms and conditions for a competition they ran. They needed it on their website, but they didn't have time to wait for the web design or all those bits and pieces. So they just created it on a landing page. It was there because there are not just, when we say landing pages, that implies that they're like traffic and marketing. But in actual fact, as Vicky said, you said right at the start, they're just one-page websites. So you can create that one page and use it for whatever. So you really got to kind of like avoid just thinking of them as landing pages, right, Vicky?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's some people just get stuck in the mindset that a landing page is just a page that you go on and do one thing and leave, or you have to sign up for something. But no, with landing pages in Mailchimp, you can put on whatever you want. It's just a web page. So you could put on your terms and conditions, like you've just mentioned about that client. You could do your privacy policy in there. You can put on some information about a product. You can even sell a product in Mailchimp. I mean, that is mind blowing. You can sell your product in Mailchimp. You can use it to if you're trying to test something out, for example. So you've got 2 lead magnets going on. You think, oh, which one's better, or I'm not quite sure of this. You could use it for that. You can use it for thank you pages. You can use it for that. Campaign thank you pages. So when people want to do complicated things, like if someone clicks a link in my email, I want them to go and see a certain page or a thank you page or you've opted out page, you can use it for things like that. So it's very versatile. But I think when you start using it, you should really focus more on anything that's campaigns specific, because you can track it through as well, and it means that your customers are getting a good experience. So if you're an advanced user of Mailchimp, there are links you can put in. People click on it, and they will get this very ugly page of you've been unsubscribed, or you've been subscribed to this, or you've been opted into this. But you can use Mailchimp to make that beautiful, so they don't have to go to a very basic static page. They can go to something really nice. So when you put it with your campaign, you can make that page very nice, and it's very simple to do because you can brand it very simply. So yes, when you're using Mailchimp landing pages, start off with something campaign specific and map that through, and just tie in all your graphics and all those sort of things, and it will be amazing. But yeah, so if we're focusing more on this landing page thing, what are the must-dos when it comes to creating a great one, Robin?
Right, great question. Well, you've already mentioned a couple, and they're ones that I always focus on. So first of all, make sure that people recognize that it's your business, because obviously, I've seen this. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but when people are coming into your Mailchimp landing page, because it's in Mailchimp, it doesn't automatically have your logo and your menu and your color scheme and bits and pieces at the top. So you need to make sure that when you're creating a Mailchimp landing page, that it does look like it's part of your website. It is on brand. It's got the right logos, the right fonts where possible, the right colors, all that type of stuff. Okay. Secondly, and this is something that's quite important, which a lot of people miss out on, and this is the problem with using home pages. So let's say, for example, that you're doing let's say we're doing a free video training course, and we talk about it on social media, and then we drive them to a particular Mailchimp landing page that we've created. Now, if we've said free training video course in Facebook, then we need to make sure that we're saying free training video course on the page as well, which is called message match. Okay. And it's one of the things people miss out on, is that they talk about one thing on their advertising in their, paid ads or the social media. And then when they go to the page, they talk about something completely different. And people go, well, hang on a minute, that's not why I clicked the link. So you've got to make sure that there's that good message match from one to the other. Make sure that you're using bold colors. Obviously, you still want to make sure that they're on brand. But the key thing in most landing pages, we're talking here about campaign landing pages, so there's probably a form for people to fill in, or there's a button that you want them to click to take them to the next step. make sure you're using those bold colors to highlight what the next step in the journey is. So it stands out, so they know, right, the next step is to do this. And obviously, and I suppose this goes without saying when it comes to using any sort of forms, you need to make sure that you're being GDPR compliant, but more so in my mind, being ethical in your data capture. So make sure when people are putting their details into the form, they know what they're signing up. So make sure it's clear if they're getting a lead magnet, if they're signing up to your newsletter, all that type of stuff. Make sure that's there, and make sure that there's a clear link to your privacy policy close to the sign-up form so they can actually go and view it. I think those are the key things that most landing pages that I've built in the past have got, and things that you need to pay attention to. What about Vicky? What about you? Any must-dos that I've not covered yet?
Yeah, I can think of a few. So on your form, try to ask the minimal amount of information that will let you communicate with that person effectively. So I know I said a lot of words there. What I mean is, if you only need someone's email address and first name, then ask that. Don't ask them what their shoe size is or what they had for dinner or anything else if you don't need to use that to communicate with them at that point in time. You will get opportunities later to ask them for more information, but at that point when they're signing up for your lead magnet or your webinar or whatever it is, just get the information that you need to communicate with them for the next step. So don't add too many fields in, because people just get tired and we might just go, oh, I can't be bothered to fill this in, I'll come back later, and then they'll never come back. Another thing, which is probably one of the hardest things for most people, well, for me anyway, is the content on the page. That is really hard. If you're not a copywriter or you don't have a way with words, you can just look at a screen and go, well, I just want to say, people, sign up for my lead magnet. I mean, that should be fine, shouldn't it? But no, you need to have an enticing headline. So when people land on that page, your headline grabs them. Your headline, they go, yes, I identify with that problem. So I want to sign up for this because this is what I want. So you need to capture them with just that very first line, or that first picture needs to capture them. And you need to also you need to describe what they're signing up for, but in a way that also relates to them. So, you could do things, you see things like, who is this for? And things like that, or what are you going to get when you sign up for this? So you need to definitely list what they're going to get, describe it very effectively, but in a way that they can relate to it, that solves a problem for them. And another thing that works really well is if you have testimonials or social proof where people have worked with you before, where you've got good feedback from people, add that in, because people love that. So adding things like that in, as well as how you structure it. So it's not always about the copy, because if you add too much copy in, then it will just get too dense and no one's going to read that. So you need to make sure you lay it out properly and nicely. So you use things to break it up. You could use lines, spacing, bullet points, use different colors, alternate different colors. So lots of ways that you can design your page and break things up a bit so it flows nicely and is easy to read, which is important. And also using images. Now, this one is always a bit of a hit and miss, because images should really just be to make your page nice, so that you improve the design of your page, but not to convey information. So don't plonk a lot of text on an image and put it on and hope for the best. That's not going to work. So if you don't need an image, don't use it. Text can be very effective, especially if you put a headline, use your font size. That can be really images are really good as well, but only if they're only there to make your page a bit nicer, not to convey information. Oh gosh, I'm rambling on now. What else? What I really love about as well with landing pages is that if you have a very long page, you can repeat your call to action. So your call to action is one that you really should focus on as well. So if you're going to have a long page and the sign up is all the way at the bottom, people might just leave. So make sure you have a way of sending people somewhere else down to where your form is. I think that covers everything. I mean, I told you, Robin, I love landing pages.
Yeah.
So have you got any more tips or advice for that I haven't talked about yet?
I think you covered an awful lot of really good stuff there, and that idea of, yes, a landing page, you can have long page, and I always call it kind of like fast forward buttons. So it's kind of like you start off saying, right, we're great, buy our stuff, here's the thing you need to buy. And then there's a button, they click buy now, and it scrolls down to the bottom of the page. Or they go, actually, I'm not sure. So they then reach the next few paragraphs, and then there's another button that says buy now, and it scrolls down to the bottom of the page. So these kind of like fast forward buttons, like, I've heard everything I need to do, I'm ready to buy, and you can use those to kind of like almost create 4 or 5 web pages, but have them on one page and actually have the ability to scroll down. I think that's a really, really good point. That I like that. So if you look at the landing pages that we've created, here's a couple of things that I think have helped us, because obviously, you know, we work with lots of customers. I just looked in. Currently, Chimpanzee is connected to over 130 Mailchimp accounts.
Wow.
So we've done a lot, and we've used a lot. And one of the things that I picked up is that because you want to make sure that things are branded on a regular basis, the first thing you should do, if you've never created a Mailchimp landing page before, is just go in and create a simple base template, a bit like the way you create an email template, as it were. So you basically have your logo, you have your color schemes. If you've got buttons, don't connect them up to anything, but just have the color scheme there. Now, the one thing to remember is that with landing pages, you can't store templates, unlike emails, which is a bit frustrating, and I wish Mailchimp would do something about it. But what you can do is you can create that page, and then whenever you want to create a new page, all you've got to do is duplicate that existing page, which means that all of your logos, all of the fonts, everything is ready, and you can just go in and add the text and images and form and videos or whatever that you want. That will save you time. So it means that, for example, when you want to do that quick campaign thank you page, which is something that I've done on a number of bases for a number of clients, you create the campaign. They've got a campaign. They've already got a page on their website, so they don't need necessarily a landing page on their website because they've got one already. But when someone clicks confirm or submit or sign up, they don't necessarily have a thank you page saying thanks for signing up, here's what's happened next. And I think creating a base template means that when you want to create one of those thank you pages, you can just knock one up very, very quickly because the hard work's already been done. So make sure you do that. Secondly, and we mentioned this earlier, and this is kind of like, I suppose to some extent, this is how we actually run most of our campaigns and activity and automations, is that when you create a landing page and it's got a form on it, make sure that in the back office, when someone completes the form, they're not just added to your audience, but they're tagged. And make sure that tag is specific to the landing page. So we always, whenever we use tags for any sort of form, we call them entry points or EP. So for example, say you've got a lead magnet for a 10% off voucher. Okay, so you could have EP, LP, 10% off, which stands for entry point, landing page, 10% off. And what that means is that you can identify all the people who complete that specific page and trigger an email based on that tag being applied. So you don't want to use a welcome message automation. You want to create one which is applied when the tag is applied. And that way, if you've got a single tag for each landing page, you can make sure that you know when someone's completed that landing page and thus send them an automated email. So that's really, really cool. And actually just building what I was talking about, using those tags and having a naming structure, one of the things that I've found is that if you are creating lots of landing pages, make sure you have got a naming structure. One of the things that Mailchimp doesn't do well, if you've only got 2 or 3 landing pages, 2 or 3 automations, Mailchimp's fine. But if you start creating multiple, and we've, I've currently got one of the team who's currently updating templates in an automation. I think there's 40 emails in the automation, like 25 or 30 different individual automations. Now, because Mailchimp's not very good at how it structures those visually, we've got to make sure that we've got a good naming structure for them. So use a naming structure for your landing pages. So when you're creating your new campaign, give it a name like LP1 and then the title, or it could be LP thank you page or LP privacy, whatever it is. Make sure that you've got some numbers, some way of tracking them and understanding what they are. So as you're navigating through, if you want to find a specific one, it's a lot easier to do. So those are the key things. Vicky, anything you'd like to add to the pot?
Yes, it's having a think now. So yes, you've just covered things like the different pages. So for a campaign, having a thank you page is really good, because once someone signs up, just saying thank you for signing up might not be enough. So if you set expectations like what's going to happen next, usually it's wait, look out for that email in your inbox. because then that focuses them on what they should be looking out for, and they might even go and open that email when it arrives. So giving them the next steps, what and what they should do with that email when it arrives, and all sorts of things. So having a nice page to just lay that information out is really good. I definitely recommend turning on tracking on your page. So even if it's just going to be the basic Mailchimp one, ideally the Google Analytics one, so you get more stats going through, but just the Mailchimp one as well is still fine, because you want to know how many people are landing on that page, how many people actually click on the buttons, and how many people go to sign up, so you can get your conversion rate. You can tell how well your page is doing. There's no, like, if you're doing a very big campaign, this is really good for future. So if you're going to be doing it again, you can know, oh right, okay, people didn't click on that button here, so I probably shouldn't have that, or maybe I would have better to have something higher up. So having those stats is really good. I mean, if it's just a throwaway thing, then you might not really care, but for something that you're going to be using again and again, or evergreen campaign, for example, then stats are very useful. And you just have to turn it on. So even if you're not going to use it, just turn it on, and in a few years' time, you might actually want it, so it'll be there for you. You can't really have tracking on retrospectively. If you don't turn it on at the start, it's not going to happen when you do want to turn it on. What else can I think of for landing pages? I think also your link. So when you're creating one in Mailchimp, you do get a chance to personalize your link that it gives you. So try and make that something memorable and something short as well if you can. And depending on the plan that you can have a wide range of scope. So you can change almost all of it if you have a subdomain, or you might be limited to just the ending part of the URL. But yes, make that something good and store it somewhere, because you don't want to be searching in Mailchimp going, right, I did create a thank you page, I just want to link it to someone or something, and you have to go into Mailchimp, search for it. If you've got on the Google Sheet or something, just plunk it there, and you know where it is, and you can quickly grab it from there. But yeah, I think that covers most of it. Yeah,
brilliant. No, it's great stuff. And it was really good, really good tracking if you're creating multiple landing pages. Yeah, like I say, create a Google Sheet, because if you've got a Google Sheet, you can not just put your landing pages in there, you can put the key blog posts that you want to promote, you can have the campaign specific. It's just a great way if you are creating lots of different pages of kind of like just keeping track of them. So that's a really, really good tip. I mean, I do that and then I forget to do it, and then I get myself into a mess. So I need to do it more. So really, really good idea. So to wrap up on landing pages, hopefully you got the idea. Even though they're part of the free Mailchimp account, they're really quite powerful if you know how to use them. They're ideal for campaign-specific activity, or just to create, quick pages that you can use for your business. They're easy to use. You don't need to get your web designers involved. You can use them for tracking with forms, or you can just add them, as a page, a click-through pages, as it were. And they're just start using them, guys. It really is kind of like something that if you've never done before, just have a play. And the fact is that because you're using exactly the same design interface that you're used to from the email campaigns, there's not a massive learning curve. It's pretty easy to understand. So please go and actually do that. Anything you'd like to add, Vicky?
I think just going back to what we talked about the copy, I think most people just go on and think, I don't know what to do, I'm staring at a blank screen. Mailchimp does actually have some templates. I mean, it's not a vast amount, but there are some templates in there. So just go on, click on one of those. You can play around as much as you like. You can create as many of these just to have a look at layouts and what's there, because some of them are really, really good. So that's just what I'll say. If you think, you're coming to a block and you don't know how to progress, then just go in, have a play, use one of the templates or the fancy ones, and then you can get an idea of a good structure. And then also doing that, look at other landing pages, get inspiration from them. So if you don't know what to write, just go and have a nose at what your neighbor's doing, business-wise anyway, and get some ideas from that. Yeah. Other than that, I think we've talked a lot about landing pages and given a lot people a lot to go and have a play with. Yeah.
Definitely. No, it's really good point. Getting that inspiration is something that I do all the time. One of the things I've noticed when I see a campaign in Facebook and I'll click on the link and it'll take me to a landing page, and I'll just do a screen capture of that landing page because it gives me inspiration and ideas. So I've almost got like a folder on my computer where whenever I need inspiration and look at how someone else has done it, I've just gone and done it. I think that's a really, really good idea. If you are struggling, then use other people's inspiration. And also with regards to Mailchimp templates, something I actually forgot to mention. Mailchimp gives you, I think, 8 different basic templates to start with. Because and as you say, you can use them for inspiration, but the one thing that I'd be very wary of is some of those landing page templates are quite varied. So if you are looking for inspiration, use Mailchimp landing pages, go and have a look at them and see whether it's right for you. If it's not right for you, then just use the basic one, because sometimes I've seen people try to crowbar designs into a template that just doesn't work, as it were. So have a look. Mailchimp gives you a pointer in the right direction, but I think that covers it up. But the whole idea of this, and I suppose it's fairly clear, me and Vicky are really, really passionate about landing pages. We really think that there's a lot out there that you can benefit from, but most people aren't actually using them. So if there's one thing that I'd persist, and we're probably both exactly the same here in saying this, if there's one thing you get from listening to this, if you've never created a Mailchimp landing page, go and create one now. Go and have a play, create one, and try and tie it to a specific social media post or campaign that you're putting out there, because it's really, really going to make that campaign and activity much more effective. And they're dead easy to do. You can do them. You don't need anyone else in there. So cool. So I think we've covered pretty much everything on landing pages. When you get a subject matter that we're both quite passionate about, we can go quite deep. So hopefully everyone who's watching or listening this is going to see a huge amount of benefit and be able to take a lot of this away and actually implement it on their own landing pages. So good stuff. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're going to translate over to our Facebook group, the Mailchimp Answers Facebook group. And one thing we do every week is we dive into the Facebook group and I pick a question that I think is quite good and that can actually be used to communicate with people. And today what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at a question that came up this morning, actually. I was just having a look this morning when I was making my notes. And it's a question that came through from Demi Rose Alloway. And she asked, "Hi guys. Is there anything that would prevent a customer journey from working? I'm selling an ebook and want the customer to be sent the ebook automatically once they purchase via a Stripe payment link. I've got Zapier integration set up to tag the customer as an ebook purchase in Mailchimp, then a customer journey with the start point for when a customer is tagged ebook purchase. However, it's still not working. I've tried a few different things, launched an ebook today and it's been a bit of a nightmare. Can anyone tell me if there's a way to change the request for details in a payment block on Mailchimp? It might save me having to use the Stripe payment link to collect payment and use the product box instead. I don't want to be collecting shipping or billing addresses." So I know, Vicky, you actually had a look at this in the group and gave 1 or 2 comments. Do you want to just kind of like dig in and pick out a few bits and pieces that Demi Rose can get on this?
Yes, it turns out I actually missed half of the post when I responded this morning. Yes, I assumed they were using Mailchimp product block, and I was like, oh, are they being added as... Anyway, so there, from rereading that, I believe she's got a landing page somewhere, it could be Mailchimp or not, but she's got a link to Stripe, so she's not using the product payment block in Mailchimp.
Yeah.
In that case, so that will be a case of just checking her automate, she has to check the workflow, really. It's really hard to pinpoint where the issue could be. It could be anything. So when someone buys, check that the Zapier is tagging the person, make sure they're in as a subscriber as the status, because if they're not in as subscribed, then the email wouldn't go out. And if they're not tagged and your automation is set to be sent on tag, then the email won't go out. So yeah, check that the subscriber is tagged, that they're a subscriber, and that the customer journey has a starting point of where they're being tagged. Yes, but if you're going to be using the Mailchimp landing page to sell your product, so using the Mailchimp product block, then that's fairly straightforward. You can't change the checkout page, I'm afraid. You're stuck with the address as it is. And that comes with the complication of if they don't tick that checkbox to say they want to join your newsletter, then they won't get your email anyway. Obviously, the workaround for that is then to use your Zapier link to add them again and tag them. So Zapier might just be the best bet here. So you just need to run through and make sure that your everything is aligned and every single point is happening as it should. And also check that I don't think the person would have already received the automation, but yeah, just check that they haven't gone through it before. But that's probably not the case here.
No, definitely agree with everything you said there, Vicky. I think, first of all, if you're going to use the Mailchimp sign-up process or the Mailchimp payment process, as it were, then you can use that, but you are limited or controlled by the way that Mailchimp does things. So the way that you've got to set it up is correct. And like so, the two things that I immediately thought of when I was reading that post, and you've already covered this, is test each step individually. So first of all, test the purchase. So when you purchase, is that information going into Stripe? Then test to see whether the Zap is actually picking up the purchase in Stripe and then going through and applying the tag in Mailchimp. And then once you've checked to see whether it applies the tag in Mailchimp, go into Mailchimp and just make sure that the person who's gone through that process is fully subscribed and is able to receive the automation. And I think, whenever we do things, and we get quite complicated into long stepped journeys, the way you've got to do to error check it is to look at each individual step and just say, is the end of that step working, and is it passing the information to the next step in the journey? And usually when you do that, you can actually spot where the issue is. And potentially one of the issues you've got is if you're doing some form of test with this, then the chances are that certainly Mailchimp, when you look at the automated emails that are sent, in customer journeys, you've got to actually say that this journey can be repeated by the same person. So if you're using the same, if you purchased it once for the email address and it went pretty fine, and then you go, actually, you know what? I'm just going to double check it again. So and you think, well, actually, you know what I'll do is I'll unsubscribe it in Mailchimp, or I'll delete it in Mailchimp, and then Mailchimp will have forgotten everything that I did, and then I can go through the process again. The problem is Mailchimp doesn't forget when you delete or archive or whatever. So when you go through again, the automation to actually send the book may not actually be triggered, because it's actually only sent to a person once, which means that it then won't go through again, as it were. So just look, those are probably the two reasons why it doesn't actually work. And hopefully, if you go through those processes, you'll identify where the issue is, and as a consequence. And I remember there was another post in the group earlier this week, which was exactly the same issue, or certainly testing landing pages and testing forms. And I'm sure it's something that I've covered off in the website blog. So go and have a look at, go into the doc and type in testing in the search menu for the blog, and I'm sure you'll find some useful information there. So hopefully you found that useful, and hopefully Demi Rose, you found that, but anyone else listening or watching, you'll have found a little bit of understanding of how you need to test your processes. Look at it each step by step and make sure that you'll find the breakage. You'll work out where it is. Cool. Right. Let's switch over to a little bit of a broader topic. So is there anything that's caught your attention in the world of email this week? An article, a blog, a website, anything that you've come up?
Yes, has there? Well, I've been chasing shiny objects this week.
Ooh.
I got it. Yes, there's some lifetime deals on some software, and I've been eyeing up some AI ones. I've been really intrigued and going, oh, I wonder what happens here. I mean, I really hate writing copy and anything that just helps me. So yes, I've been delving into the world of AI and trying to use that to generate content, which I thought might be a good idea for blog posts / email and subject lines, trying to play around with that. So that's been my world today. I've been reading about in some articles and how AI is going to become the new thing in marketing. And so watch this space, Robin.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've got the same adverts in your Facebook feed as in fact, probably quite a lot of our.
Probably.
I think the only difference is you've got kids and I haven't. But apart from that, our Facebook feeds are probably very similar in terms of advertising. I've seen those as well. I haven't dived in, so I'll be very interested. I'll have to have a chat with you offline about what your experience of that is, and if there's something that we can bring into the Chimpanzees universe on that side of things. I've been looking at email designs this week. Just broadening understanding, and there's a really good tool that and it's called Really Good Emails, and it's a website that lots of email marketers use for inspiration. So we're talking previous about landing page inspiration. I'm sure there's probably probably one called Really Good Landing Pages. Now that I've said that, I'm going to have to go and check.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, exactly. I race you to get the domain, but Really Good Emails. It's a free resource. It's really, really cool. And you can basically go in and get inspiration for all different types of emails that you could possibly write. So there's like welcome emails, there's, newsletters, e-commerce emails. And if you're struggling and need inspiration just to kind of like decide how you're going to do things, going there is good. And one of the things that comes out from a lot of those really good emails is how they use graphics. And it's one of the things that I think for people who use Mailchimp on the free level, whatever, it's something that they kind of like. There's a little bit of a disconnect, because a lot of the really good email kind of like graphics they use, the graphics they're using are actually designed with the email in mind. I mean, we spend a lot of time repurposing content. So we take an image that's put on a website and put it into an email, but it's really been designed for the website. But the emails that look really, really good, high quality, professional, are ones where the actual images have been designed with the email in mind. So they're the right dimensions and they blend very nicely with the copy. But I think the other thing to take away is from that is that a lot of the emails aren't that complicated. They you go, oh, I've got to have the best, this email and that email. I've got to spend how much design on it. And we've talked about design in previous episodes of Chimp Chats. You don't need to go over the top. If you just make sure that it looks clean and professional. If there's one thing that bugs me like nobody's business, is getting an email from someone and I'm on their mailing list and it doesn't look professional. And I'm going, if you can't be bothered to make your email look professional, how am I going to pay attention to you and treat you seriously, if you're going to help me with your business? So go and have a look at reallygoodemails.com. Really useful, really interesting. And I think that you'll all get some form of inspiration from looking at that. Really, really cool. So I think that wraps us up for today. We've done our usual 40 odd minutes of rambling about specific aspects of Mailchimp. So any last thoughts? I see this is problems. I've run out of words now and I'm stumbling. What should I say? So any last thoughts on today's chat, landing pages or whatever, Vicky, that you just want to remind people about?
Well, it turns out that reallygoodlandingpages.com is not available.
Damn it.
So, never mind. Apart from that, yes, I'm just, with landing pages, it's just to give them a try and, just get stuck in. And it's really useful. You don't need to be a designer. You don't need to have great skills. You can just forget your website for a little bit about this, and it just means you don't have to create lots of one-off pages on your website. This is a really good thing to use instead. So yes, I really love it, and I think we should all use it, especially when it comes to campaigns, thank you pages and all those one-off pages. It's a great option.
Damn it, you've stole everything I wanted to say.
I apologise.
No, you're spot on, and that's why exactly. If there's one thing you're gonna go from this episode, it's go and have a play. There is no barrier to you doing this. They're on the free account. You can knock them up. Make sure, probably if you can have a play, make sure you've got your color schemes and your fonts and other bits and pieces available so you know what they are, so you can create your base template. But, realistically, there's not many barriers, if any, for you to go and have a play with it. And I think you'd be surprised in terms of how easy it is to create a good-looking landing page that you can use. And again, once you've created one, it's suddenly, I've done one. I can create another one. I can do this. So, that first one is always the one that's going to take a little bit longer. But once you've got that first one sorted and you're happy, you've then got a template that you can use for other ones down the track. So, yeah, I think the lasting thing here is go and have a play. You'd be surprised how much you can do with it. Cool. So, just remember, you can always catch up on previous episodes of Chimp Chats on Facebook, on YouTube, or whatever podcast platform that you're using. And next week, we're going to be talking about something relatively new and, from probably most of you, untapped in Mailchimp. I know, I'll be honest, I'm going to be doing a bit of research over the next week on this one, because it's not something that I've used extensively, but I think that there's a huge amount of potential for it. And that's Mailchimp surveys. So we're going to talk about Mailchimp surveys, how you can use them, what you can do for them, how you can use it to not just capture information about your audience from a broader point of view, but how you can use them to automatically segment your audience. And to be quite frank, we should all know about now how important segmentation is. So please make sure that you catch us next week, and we'll go into that in a fair amount of detail. And hopefully you'll take away some great advice and tips of how you can use Mailchimp surveys for your business. Okay, but for now, thank you very much, Vicky. As ever, it's lovely to have you here, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Unless, of course, you're now on some holidays with the kids and I need to go and find someone else. But for now, everyone else, thanks very much for watching or listening wherever you are. And if you've got questions or comments or anything, just make sure that you go and visit the Mailchimp Answers Facebook group, post them there. That's the best way to get advice and insights into the problems that you've got. And you never know, you might get your question actually answered live in Chimp Chats. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch up very soon indeed. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast really helpful, then here's what you can do next to broaden your understanding of Mailchimp. You can join our free Facebook group. It's the biggest Mailchimp support group in the world. Just search Mailchimp Answers on Facebook. You can take our free Mailchimp Medical to find out the health of your Mailchimp account and what you can do to improve it. Just visit chimpanswers.com and follow the prompts. And of course, you can get in touch with us if you like one-to-one support, advice, tips, or whatever. Just visit chimpanswers.com, which also has got one of the largest resources of Mailchimp blogs and advice available out there to get the information that you need. Thanks again, and we'll see you very soon.